Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about modal auxiliaries. I don't want to spend a lot of time in class doing this, so that's why we're going to look at it now. Obviously, I would help you use them if I could understand what they meant, and that's how I feel kind of about you. There are basic conjugation rules that everybody should know. The first thing is that there is no S on a modal, and there is no S on the verb that follows. So the verb that follows a word like can or might is always in the base form. True modals are not followed by the word to. For example, I can speak English. That is a correct structure. He can speak Mandarin. That is also a correct structure. You see there's no S on can when my subject is he. There is no S on the word speak either, on the verb speak. It is incorrect to say he can speak Mandarin. He can speaks Mandarin is also incorrect. And he can to speak Mandarin is also incorrect. So the common true modals are can, could, will, would, should, may, must, might, shall, which we're not really going to talk about. We call them true modals because the verb that follows is in the base form. There are other modals or words that we consider to be modals, like have to, which means the same thing as must, have got to, ought to, which means the same thing as should, had better. One thing I want to say about the modals is you can look in your book on page 58 to see why we use them. I suspect that you know how to use most of them anyway. Remember that modals cannot always be translated directly from one language to another, but they express a nuance or an attitude in the language, and that many of them have more than one meaning. A good example is the word would. Would I can use to make a polite request in a question form. I use it to express a conditional action. I use it to express a desire or preference, and I also use it to express a past habit. So it's important to understand that these words have more than one meaning. He couldn't help us yesterday. I could help you tomorrow if I have time. And this one couldn't. He couldn't help us yesterday. It's the past of can, which means he did not have the ability to help us yesterday. In this one, I could help you tomorrow if I have time. It's almost a conditional sentence in this case, or a possibility. The forms in use, here we're just going to look at some basic examples. They should study for their exams. We might leave. He can't finish. Again, you notice there's no S on the modal, and there is no S on the verb that follows. Would you like to go to a movie with me? Where should we have lunch? You must not touch the hot stove. And as I said, you can look in your book on page 58 for more information. And in fact, in that entire unit, you have a lot of very precise explanations. In particular, I would like for you to pay attention to must not versus don't have to. We'll talk about it a bit more here. Most modals, to make them negative, you'd simply add not. So can becomes can not, and the contraction is can't. Of course, we shouldn't use contractions when we're doing formal writing. In conversation and in informal writing, it's fine. Should becomes should not, and shouldn't is the contracted form. Should have, should not have, and shouldn't have is the contracted form. Some modals change their meaning depending on how the negative is formed. For example, must not. If I say you must not smoke in the college, it means it is forbidden to smoke. It's like the law. But if I say do not have to or does not have, he does not have to, it means a lack of obligation. There is no test, he doesn't have to study. So do not have to or does not have to is actually the negative form of must. Past modals we'll talk about past modals and how to form them in a moment, but past modals can also have different meanings in the negative. So as you know, can is the present, but the general past of can is could, and so the negative is couldn't. When I was little, I couldn't speak French. But if you're trying to show an element of surprise or deduction, I say can't have and then my past participle. That can't have been Michael at the party because he was in the hospital. So in this case, can't have plus my past participle is the negative past of can. So it's an example of where we see the difference in meaning. How do we form modals in the past? I didn't study for the test and I failed. I should have studied. So the structure is the modal plus the present perfect. So which means modal plus have plus the past participle. I often see people write, I should have studied, which is incorrect. It's because when we speak English, we contract our words, we push them together, and so if I say should have studied, it sounds like I'm saying should OF studied. That's incorrect. It is also incorrect to write I should studied. A lot of people say that. I should have studied. The correct structure is what you see in front of you. I should have studied. So I should had studied. This is also wrong because after the modal should, we have to use the base form of the verb. This is also an error that I see using conditionals, which we're going to talk about more today, also or this week. If I had studied, I would have passed. So not every modal can be put into a past form. These are the typical ways. We've already looked at can, but could, I could say I could have helped. Will have left, it's a future perfect tense. We're not going to look at that this semester. He would have left. They should have run. He may have left, etc. You can see how they work. In the question structure, I say, would you have gone? So here's my modal, my auxiliary, subject, verb. Or must, meaning had to. I had to leave, and he must have left already. It's expressing probability. When we make questions, the modal is its own auxiliary, so I do not have to use an extra do, does, or did. Can you help me? You know that one already. May I help you? Will you please stop talking, people in the back? And would you mind opening the window? This run is wrong. Do you can help me? Remember, I cannot put do and can together because can is already my auxiliary. So I would say here, can you help me? Okay, another question. My goodness, I had a lot of questions. The end. Apparently that's it. So look in your book if you don't understand what they mean, but that's it for the structure. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stop.